Hey, this is Matt once again. We're about to another videos, another paid request, this time for Shawn. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, PayPal is usually the best bet, or join my Patreon. Links are in the info box either over there or over there, whichever it may be this week. It's in the info box. And Shawn, I requested a couple commenters, one of them on the Back to the Future trilogy. So it'll take a while to get through those, because I think each one is about 2 hours. But of course, we start with the first one, and let's get into it. Thanks once again, Shawn. I have the subtitles on, and yes, the fan is on high mode because it's hot here in Texas, and so you may hear a bit of sound. I apologize for hearing the wind sound, but it's the best I can do right now. With that said, once I clean my glasses, thank you once again, Shawn. And 3, 2, 1, pressing play. As we have the Universal logo here. And what do we got? We got Steven Spielberg Presents, of course. Then coming up, we got a Robert Zemeckis film. Now, definitely saw these films back in the day when I was a kid. And funny enough, the one I saw the most as a kid was Back to the Future Part 2. And if you asked me years and years ago, I would say that's my favorite. But while I do like Back to the Future Part 2 quite a bit, as the years have gone on, I would say this is actually my favorite of the three. The third one I used to really dislike. Now it's a time waster. Decent way to wrap up the trilogy. But the Wild West motif wasn't really my favorite motif. But there's some good stuff to it. And this is nice, like telling the story just by visuals. So we see what kind of person Doc Brown is, and we see some newspaper clippings and how intricate he is in terms of maybe not the biggest budget in terms of what he can do, but definitely some ingenuity for what he can find all around. And of course, let's keep repeating the notion of time with how many clocks are here. And of course, this news report about the uranium, or sorry, plutonium, uranium. I was thinking of a different movie. Yeah, plutonium, of course. With the plutonium theft, so that it doesn't come out of nowhere. But in 1985, Alan Silvestri, great composer, of course, will later do the score for Predator and many other films. But 1985 was a great year for movies. If you look at just action films, me being a big action film fan, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Commando, Invasion USA, American Ninja. I mean, there's a lot of fun. I think Death Wish 3 was 85, I believe. At least around that time, if not exactly. It's just a great year for movies and action movies. And then, of course, yeah, films like Back to the Future. With a very young Michael J. Fox, who is perfect for the role. And of course, people know the story. Michael J. Fox they were thinking of, but he was doing the TV show Family Ties. While that was happening, he couldn't really get the role, and then he was doing a film called Teen Wolf, because that was able to accommodate his work with the TV show Family Ties. I think I remember reading a story like something about Michael J. Fox would be on the set of Teen Wolf, and then he would be able to see the people working on Back to the Future and think, man, it'd be great to be in that movie. Because it was Eric Stoltz cast. as this character. And there is footage out there, but you never hear the audio. You just see like clips when people talk about it and like little making of features. I'll get back to that, man. Look at this speaker, just how humongous it is. First, like, big laugh in the movie. Just how gigantic it is. I mean, I don't know what kind of result he expected. That seemed like it was going to happen regardless. Sunglasses bigger than your head, what we call Coke bottle glasses, in this case sunglasses, and Eric Stoltz would not have fit. And you tell, even though you don't hear his dialogue, you tell by his demeanor, his look, he just didn't seem like he fit, and most people felt the same way. That's why they got very far into production. It was like 3 weeks? Like, they did a lot of work. And then they literally had to stop and go, this isn't working. And imagine you're Eric Stoltz. Just imagine you're the guy. You get cast in this Steven Spielberg produced film. You know it's going to be a big film. Or the potentially big film. You're the star. You think your job is secured. And then that many weeks later, you're just told, pretty much, you suck. They probably didn't say that, but it's still like, you suck. Get out of here. We're going to shit can you and hire someone else. And it's like, well, how would you feel if you were that guy? Then Michael J. Fox came in, and if I understand, he did Back to the Future and then Family Ties, and like was working almost 24 hours a day, which is crazy. But at the same time, I think like he knew the potential of this film, and it's like, I gotta do it, and it worked out. Man, that's a great spot for Dot to have his lab right by a Burger King and a Toys R Us. Damn, lucky. And of course, this is a good setup for a lot of things. First, you have the great Huey Lewis music. The power of love. But you have establishing the town and the way the town looks. Just we're going to go back in time and we'll see just how different these environments look. We introduce the skateboard part so that later on, when he uses a skateboard, we know he could use a skateboard efficiently. And here we have Claudia Wells as the girlfriend Jennifer, who did not come back for the second film. I think her mom was dealing with cancer, so she dealt with that. And then they cast Elizabeth Shue for 2 and 3, since those were shot back to back. And of course we have Strickland here. I always forget this guy's name, but on the left, he was in Top Gun. He was in the He-Man movie, Masters of the Universe, with Dolph Lundgren. He was the police officer. But of course, most people remember him from this as being, using the word slacker. And of course, he'll pop up in the second film with a shotgun in the alternate 1985. And for a guy that didn't have a whole lot of screen time, he definitely made an impression. Now, of course, that guy with the bullhorn is Huey Lewis himself. Huey Lewis himself. Of course, the irony was that Huey Lewis is a performer. With Huey Lewis in the news, hip to be square. And yet he's the guy that's saying that's too darn loud. Now, this is around the time when Ghostbusters came out, there was that lawsuit where Huey Lewis sued because saying that the theme for Ghostbusters was too much like "I want a new drug." Dun 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 dun. Which you can see, but at the same time, the Ghostbusters theme is still great. I think there was also some kind of law, like part of the lawsuit, like they weren't meant to talk about it for a while. But then I think Huey Lewis like brought it up at one point, and then it kind of reinvigorated the lawsuit and such. But part of me wonders if it's like, okay, well, a song that has a similar beat to mine became such a successful piece of music within a movie. Let me try to be part of a movie. So of course, hey, Steven Spielberg, who at this time, yeah, he's not directing it, but at this point, Spielberg, the guy behind Jaws, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., which was like the biggest movie at that time. And even his producing ventures, there was a lot of success. So people wanted, of course, Indiana Jones at that point, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and Temple of Doom. So people were like, hey, Steven Spielberg, even he's producing? That's why he's the first name you see. Jump on board. Of course, we established Save the Clock Tower for the ending here to set up what is going to happen at the ending, the lightning being struck. Because that way you have the flyer, and then Doc Brown is able to see it, and that gets to our third act. Which I know the original idea of the third act was something about a nuclear test site and outrunning a nuclear bomb blast. Which I'm glad they didn't do that. I think the fact if you're still within the town, and it's still within the town, it just, and being much more intimate with, will Doc Brown get to this in time, and will he get to plug this in time. And it gives Doc Brown, a heroic moment as well. It's the power of love. But I guess I should mention, the Eric Stoltz stuff. I don't think he would have worked. It'd be nice to see all that footage, just release all the footage. And I'd be curious if someone like took the footage and you had the audio and then they did like their fan edit of what it would have looked like. Even if it's like you took scenes from this movie, but then you plugged in Eric Stoltz. So yeah, it'd be where you see Michael J. Fox, but then, oh, well, there's Eric Stoltz, and you did get enough of a hint of what his performance would have been like with the whole picture. I am surprised they never let that full footage out. I don't know if that's Eric Stoltz. I mean, they've allowed a little bit, but I don't know the details behind that. Of course, we're introduced to our other characters. We got Crispin Glover as the dad. We got Thomas F. Wilson as Biff. And then we're going to have Leah Thompson as the mom. Of course, in more older makeup, since we're going to see them a lot younger in a bit. Now, Thomas F. Wilson made a good bad guy, very energetic bad guy. Also really enjoyed him in April Fool's Day in 1986. That's a very fun film. That was a year after this film. And I don't know what Thomas F. Wilson did throughout the 90s. I know he had a bit part, I think, in Action Jackson as a cop. But we got to like especially the late 90s, I cannot really remember anything Thomas F. Wilson did, so I'm sure if I look up online and of course find it, but like off the top of my head I can't. Of course, Crispin Glover had seen him in Friday the 13th, the final chapter, and he was in films like the River's Edge and He had worked with Michael J. Fox before in this made-for-TV movie called High School USA. And I saw it recently thanks to a good guy, good friend. And I'm like, oh wow, it's interesting to see Michael J. Fox and Crispin Glover before Back to the Future, because that was I think 1983. So it's interesting to see them there, and then of course Crispin playing the dad. I do think his makeup looks pretty decent as an older gentleman. Diet Pepsi, 1 calorie. Wow. Now that guy there, is that Mark Metcalf? Jimmy Olsen from Superman? Now, of course, Leah Thompson here, we see just how much she's a drunk. You tell she's not happy. She's not happy where she is in life. And I know by the end it seems like a bit superficial to people, but I actually like it where because of the events that happens, his life of his family has changed where the brother and sister are in more successful jobs. Crispin Glover's character is a novelist and much more successful. The wife, the Leah Thompson here, is much more happy and less of a drunk. They're able to give Michael J. Fox's truck as a gift. And of course, Leah Thompson, she's so against this stuff, which she was the opposite. So you do see a nice character change, character arc by the end of it because of the events. So I like that it's not just he went on a journey. There's some kind of, in a weird way, a payoff or reward. That some people go, oh, it's superficial, it's blah blah blah, it's about materialism. Well, guess what? That's a big part of life, and that's a big part of where we're at now. Because I know there's the phrase, money doesn't buy you happiness, but let me tell you something. It lowers your damn stress a bit if you had a lot of money. I'll say that. It lowers your stress when something breaks, when something needs done, food, shelter, all sorts of stuff. So it definitely helps. Okay. I love to have that problem. Oh, I got too much money and blah blah. Give me that problem. And there's a bit of certain sadness with Leah Thompson, maybe a sense of regret. Did she really make the right decision? All that stuff. Diet Pepsi free. I think, was it free? Diet Pepsi. I can't remember if it said fresh or free. I want to say free. Because it basically think of the joke. Yeah. Give me a Pepsi free. If you want Pepsi, you need to pay for it. I don't know why that joke always got me. Like I say, Michael J. Fox just had such a good, earnest innocence to him. And I was always a big fan of the guy, whether it be in oh, that's funny. It's 1:16 a.m. and it's 1:06 a.m. as I'm recording this. So it's funny. It's both 1 a.m. But yeah, Michael J. Fox, I've enjoyed. I didn't watch Family Ties much growing up. We didn't have the channel for it. But I knew of the show, but we had ABC and CBS. And by the time I mean, when this came out, I was only, what, 2 years old, so wouldn't know anything about it anyway. But it was these films, Casualties of War, The Frighteners. I remember liking Spin City. I know that lasted only a few years because that was around the time he knew he had Parkinson's, but it was showing more and more effect. It affected him more on screen. It was much more noticeable. So that's why it's sad to see Michael J. Fox in anything nowadays. Because you see just how he's shaking a lot more and he's slurring his words and he just can't do as much as he's able to, and just really big shame, very big shame. And it seems like a nice guy. People seem to be always have nice things to say about him. Seems like he treated people well. Never heard of a story of him being an ass or anything to anybody. He was very talented. And his career being taken away from him. He would work every once in a while, but still just to not be able to do just how many things he could have been and would have been capable of throughout the years is just a damn shame. Of course, you have the DeLorean. Such a cool looking car. Granted, in real life practicality, the way the door opened would be so annoying with it popping up like that. Just like if you're parking at a store, grocery store, to open up the car, like it would pop up and seem like it would always hit something. At least if you pop on the side, you just squeeze through. You see like you have less control on this. You see some serious shit. I do like the bit coming up where like he's trying to move away, and then Christopher Lloyd is like, "Where are you going?" But without dialogue, just by here it is. So yeah, like this is a scene where you just see photos where Eric Stoltz was in, did this scene. And I think there are people like if you that talk about like how was it worked with Eric Stoltz, and it's about like Eric played it. I don't know, more of a serious character or more of a darker character. I don't know how else they worded it, but yeah, I think like I said, Michael J. Fox was more right for the role. He had that innocence, energy, that boyish charm that could just make it very endearing. Which I will admit, when I first saw Tom Holland, I saw a bit of Michael J. Fox in him. And I don't hate Tom Holland, it's just I don't think he pitched the right roles like Uncharted. But I do not I liked him as an actor. It's just I don't think he's bad as Spider-Man. I just don't think those films are that well made, or at least well written, I should say, as they could and should be. That's just my opinion. Even the costume that Michael J. Fox wears is so memorable in this with the red vest, which I don't think Eric Stoltz had. But this red vest just made it. When you think of Martin McFly, you think of that red vest. Now, of course, he has different clothes and others, but anytime I think of Martin McFly, I always think of this red vest. Which I know there's a line coming up of, like, what is it, Life Preserver? You're a Navy man? I forget what the exact line was when he goes back to 1955. And even though it's a comedy, there are elements that seems a bit darker. Like when Christopher Lloyd gets killed in a little bit, and then the death of Martin McFly's father in the second film, and so there are definitely stakes involved. And of course, the third one, he's going back to the West to save Doc because he's going to get killed. And these are these films that, like, you looked at Back to the Future. I mean, it's technically a sci-fi film, but there's not a whole lot of special effects. I mean, you had the bit with the DeLorean disappearing and reappearing, which that happens, was it 3 times? There's this time. Then when Marty goes back to 1955, and then when he goes back to 1985 at the end. Like, really, those are the only special effects in the movie. But it's the concept, the characters, and the story that makes it work very well. Now, of course, we have Doc Brown telling the story here so that Marty can tell the story later on to make him believe that his story is true. Same with the video camera. Those old school video cameras from way back in the day. And Christopher Lloyd, always enjoyed him as well throughout the years. Of course, most well known for this role, understandably, but even was the film Nobody, the action film. It was great to see him in that. I mean, hell, I liked him in Suburban Commando with Hulk Hogan. I was frozen today. He was fun in that movie. He's one of the reasons I can enjoy that film for what it is, so. You saying this sucker's nuclear? It is one of those things that I always forget that there are, terrorists in this movie. Because such a, you think of all the other elements of the film, you go, oh yeah, there's also terrorists in the movie. Which, of course, also with this gives way to the suit, which then people think is an alien. And later on, when you have the sci-fi writer, he uses this to make it look like he's an alien. So I think it was a very well put together script by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale and them. Now, they had done some films before. That weren't the most successful. One of them was Used Cars with Kurt Russell, and that wasn't entirely successful. But then what helped them was Romancing the Stone. They did that with Michael Douglas and Kathleen Turner, and that was a nice surprise hit. They go, wow, okay, what do you want to do next? Okay, Spielberg's like, hey, you have a hit film? You have any ideas? Back to the Future? Okay, let's do it. And studios didn't want it. Apparently some studios thought the film was too nice and tidy and family friendly. They wanted more raunchy comedies. Because, yeah, I think this is the era you had, in the early 80s, Porky's. You had Revenge of the Nerds. You had even the first Police Academy, which was rated R. So they wanted more of those type of R-rated comedies. And then Disney said no because they thought, no, this is too much because you have an incest plot with the mom. I'm like, well, he doesn't want to be with his mom, and the mom doesn't know it's her son. And that's, it's like they didn't get the idea of the story, I guess. Of course, this is one of those little nitpicks that even though the hero's dead to rights, lo and behold, he's out of ammo, or in this case, the gun is jammed. Because how many of us are ever that lucky in real life? And, really, we would be shot dead, or the bullet would hit us right in the heart in the first go. But then lo and behold, because it's a movie, so you just go along with it. But it's one of those, oh, of course. If the bad guys talked too much for the good guy to do something to get the hell out of Dodge, or the bad guy doesn't just shoot, or, again, no more bullets. Again, those tropes that could be annoying. It's not a big deal. It doesn't ruin the film. It's just like one of those little cliche bits. But yeah, Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox. I mean, great cast. And like I said, Bob D.L. Robert Zemeckis. Of course, this came out was a huge hit, humongous hit. And it makes sense. It's a fun adventure tale, as good as a comedy, likable characters, and it's a fun, like, weirdly enough, uplifting tale of being able to change your fate, change your life inadvertently, and this idea of, what if a son met his parents when they were his age? Would they be relatable? Would they not be relatable? And, how would you react if you met your parents at that age? That kind of thing. It's an interesting idea. It's a good story. At the end of the day, it's a good story. And of course, because the radiation suit, they're going to think it's a space alien, which is like the kids' comic. Now that guy with the lantern, I swear he's the guy in Silent Night, Deadly Night. The grandpa that scares the kid. Be careful, Santa. Be careful of him. If not, it looks exactly like the guy. Maybe it's not him, but it looks just like the guy. And this is another moment that made me laugh. Is that was a good pratfall. Where he backs up, just trips over the bottom of the barn right here. It's just some of that shit. Oh, there you go. Like I said, I swear that guy with the shotgun is the guy from Silent Night, Deadly Night 1. And there you go. Hasn't been built yet. Sorry, I'm just being silent. I'm kind of looking up some info on the film. I don't know why the woman freaked out that much. I mean, okay, he's wearing a yellow suit, but it doesn't mean anything else. Let's see. James Tolkien, he was the high school principal, Strickland. That was his name, James Tolkien. Will Hare was that guy's name. I was right. He was the grandpa in Silent Night, Deadly Night. I thought so. That guy's name is Will Hare. So yeah, the guy with the shotgun who shoots at Marty McFly, he was the crazy grandpa. But how Santa is evil. The Christmas is mysterious time of the year. And the first Silent Night, Deadly Night movie. Okay. I thought he seemed familiar. Of course, you see all the different. You just see how much more cleaned up the town is. The movie theater, definitely no porno in there. Look up Thomas F. Wilson. He was in Blood In, Blood Out. He was in Camp Nowhere. He was in That Darn Cat. And he was in... He did voice work. He was a captain in the Heat. I forgot about that. Completely forgot he was in that. And... he's done a lot of voice work on cartoons. Max Steel... SpongeBob SquarePants, Flats the Flounder, Herb Starr. He did a lot of voices for SpongeBob SquarePants throughout the years. So he's done a lot of cartoon work. TV and cartoon work. So there you go. So I'm just looking at some stuff here. Just want to look up Christopher Lloyd after this. Because he was in Star Trek 3 as the big bad Klingon. He was in Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai. Judge Doom and Who Framed Roger Rabbit, of course. Another Robert Zemeckis film. Uncle Fester, Addams Family. Camp Nowhere. Let's see, what was it that he's done lately? That's what I was curious about. I forgot he was in Piranha 3D and 3 Double D. Lot of films. Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. I forgot he was in that. He's done some cameos as Doc Brown. Spirit Halloween the movie. Forgot he was in that. As the villain. Because that was an awful movie. How about Pepsi Free? You might need to pay for it. Of course, Light Father, Light Son. And this is where you definitely get to what the movie's about. Deep fly think. Which I've used that a lot when doing a movie review and talking about how, like, a director or studio or someone being so stupid. Think before I think. Just one of the great bullies in film history. There's, the bully in Karate Kid. There's the bully in this. These two go drown. And yeah, Crispin Glover, for the most part, usually played a guy who seems a bit weird and just a bit eccentric. He seems like a very weird, eccentric guy in real life. There's that David Letterman interview that he did that it seemed like so weird. He never got to be on David Letterman again. Of course, his funky dancing and Friday the 13th, the final chapter. And then later on in films like Willard, the remake, and the weird Hitman and Charlie's Angels 1 and 2. We have our character here who's going to run for mayor. And we don't know if you kind of get this, well, I wouldn't say that. I would say you did kind of get this fate, like this was always meant to happen, but if that was the case, then his mom and dad would have been changed from the get-go, but that'll eventually happen. But yeah, time travel movies throughout the years, there's always a lot of issues and questions and problems that you always come across with. You always can easily get yourself into a paradox where, for example, if you change this one or two or three things, then it would affect the outcome of the future. And if it affects the outcome of the future, would you be in that right time, right moment, right situation to go back in time in the first place and then have these changes happen? Or would it change the future so you're not in the right time, right place? Then you wouldn't have gone back in time. That means you wouldn't have changed anything, and then this wouldn't be changed. So if you think about it, you just would go crazy. Because the mistake he does, which that makes his mom fall in love with him. But yeah, I like the idea that he's being slowly erased because he's changed time. I think that's a really cool concept. So like his brother and his sister are fading away in the picture, erased from existence. And I thought that was a nice concept to put in there. And of course, there's another thing that's fun when you watch these films back to back is you see kind of the repetitious nature. So like this bit here with him waking up, you see this in both of the sequels. You see this in the second film when he wakes up and there's his mom, but it's altered in 1985 where she's got her boobs more showing and you're so big, you're so big. And then in the West, he's like, who are you? Leah Thompson, I mean, she must have been wondering what kind of movie, like, what kind of agent do I have where you get me a movie where I fall in love with my own son, not realizing it's your son, but still, you fall in love with your own son. Then you give me a movie where I fall in love with a duck, because of course Leah Thompson was in Howard the Duck. She must be like, what the hell are you doing? And I don't know why I would always get her and Elizabeth Shue confused. I don't know why, because they don't look the same at all. But just because they're in the same. In the second film, they're in the same movie. Yeah, I don't know why, because they're not the same. Falls right on down. Like, but you're used to these bars. I don't know why I just like that. Just telling a baby, hey, by the way, baby, you don't go to jail soon. Well, not soon, but I think that guy with that raccoon hat, that kid on the left, I think he was on. Was it the Wonder Years? And I think for a while he was married to a wrestler, a female wrestler, I believe. And didn't he like at one point team up with Eric Bischoff? Like after Eric left WCW? I could be completely wrong on that, but like that kid on the left there, I swear he would later work with WCW's Eric Bischoff. Like after WCW was done and over. I could be wrong on that. Back to the day when you had these antenna TVs in black and white. See, you just Michael J. Fox does a good job with this nervous energy that I just don't see Eric Stoltz being able to pull off. And that's the thing. I don't think Eric Stoltz would have. I mean, first and foremost, this is a comedy, and I don't think. Yeah, I don't think Eric Stoltz would have handled the comedy well at all. Of course, the irony here of the dad here saying his parents are probably idiots. If you ever have a kid like that, I'll disown you, like that type of thing, which is ironic as it is her kid. I know, I'm thinking of the second one where he tries to go back to his home and it's actually occupied. This is a Dot Brown. He's going to see. Really nice looking place. Look at that. That's a hell of a place he's at. And this device on his head reminds me of Ghostbusters. What they put on Rick Moranis to test him. I guess that's also the caveat that, you know, Christopher Chris Lloyd would look pretty much the same as he did from 55 to 85 within 30 years, but they kind of got that right because for the longest time he did kind of look the same anyway. I think because of the hair and other stuff, he really didn't look that whole different in 30 years. You know what this means? That this doesn't work at all. Ronald Reagan, the actor? And there's that irony, not irony, but that funny bit that, yes, we did have a president that used to be an actor. So no, Mr. Donald was not the first guy to be the president who was on TV, a personality. People forget Ronald Reagan was a guy that acted in movies where, was it like him and a chimpanzee or something? Like, people forget about Ronald Reagan, apparently. Of course, he had the Reaganomics, which a lot of people did not like. Including people like John Carpenter that were against that, employed in films like They Live. Of course, the first bit of business, first bit of info that the picture is being wonky. Cut up the top of your brother's hair. The actor? Which would be ridiculous. I mean, you could see why people think it would be ridiculous. Wait, the actor? It'd be like if I said, okay, let's say someone comes from the future and sees me, and they go, I don't know, Mark Wahlberg is the president. You'd be like, what? Marky Mark? He's with the Funky Bunch? Of course, this is where he tells a story where there's no way he could have known that. I hit my head in the toilet. I drew this, the flux capacitor. And of course, I mean, like I said, this film was very successful. You had video games, like the Nintendo game, which is an awful game. You had Back to the Future 2 and 3 on Nintendo, which, to be fair, I never played it, but it seems like one of the worst Nintendo games you could ever play. You had Back to the Future 3, I think, for Genesis. You had a Back to the Future 2 game for the overseas Super Nintendo, like the Super Famicom or something. And I know there's a Back to the Future game where it's like a kind of a, I don't want to say a point and click, but I forget what I never played it, but it's like more, felt like more of a movie than a game from what I've seen of it. There was a short-lived cartoon. There was a ride at Universal Studios, which I remember going on that ride when I was a kid and enjoying it, where Biff steals the DeLorean and we're supposed to be, you're testing this out, and then Doc Brown's telling you where to go and guide as you're chasing Biff, who stole one of the other DeLoreans. So you're going through all these different time periods, dinosaurs, all sorts of stuff. So 1.21. What did I? 1.21 gigawatts. What the hell is a gigawatt? And I guess one thing to note is that, of course, Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale made it a point in their contracts that no one can reboot or do a sequel to Back to the Future unless they say so. Which, thank God. Because how many franchises have been milked dry again and again and again? Whether it be even Rambo, Sally, where there's 5 films now, Star Trek, Star Wars, Alien, Predator, Terminator, all sorts of franchises. There's 3 films, there's a trilogy, that's it, there's a trilogy. And people didn't get burned out, they didn't get tired of Back to the Future. There was never, oh great, another one, okay, here we go. And you know, the actors are getting much older. Once in a while they do a skit, like a talk show. They do a little bit of skit, which is sad to see, because you see just how Michael J. Fox is with his Parkinson's. And we don't need a reboot. You don't need a reboot of Back to the Future. You don't need to be where now it's, you know, Marty McFly's daughter, and Marty McFly has a daughter, and she's gotta go back to the future and do the same thing as the first movie, but then blah 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 blah. No, you don't need that at all. I think Bob Dale, Robert Zemeckis are smart enough to realize that. Which is nice. I'm laughing because of the dialogue. That's heavy. Gravity has nothing to do with it? That is, they maybe were adopted. And there's Strickland. James Tolkien. Again, he was in Masters of the Universe, the Canon film, He-Man film, Top Gun, among other flicks. And, I always think of, whenever I see them in these clothes, I always think of the deleted scene. It was a gag reel thing, where, like, they're acting like, I don't know, Michael J. Fox's character's smoking or something. He's looking. She cheating, man. She cheating. Cheating, bitch. He cheating, man. It's a very, I thought it was very funny, but very weird, like, gag reel thing. I don't know if it's online. It was on the DVD. So, obviously, it wasn't meant to be in the film. It was just they were goofing off, but I thought it was pretty funny. And I love Chris Lloyd's expressions. Heavy, and that's a weird thing. I never heard anyone say the word heavy like Michael J. Fox did in this movie. So I almost felt like Christopher Lloyd, like heavy. I mean, of course I get what it means. It's a serious situation. But I'm just saying, I never heard anyone in real life say that. But at the same time, this was 85. By the time I know enough about movies in life itself. I'm 7 years old and it's 1990, so maybe in my 1990 people weren't using that term as much of heavy. Even movie wise, this is probably the only film, or one of the only films I could think of that uses that term heavy, especially in that way. This kind of an endearing thing. You're the son finding out something about the father. Like, wait, I didn't know you were a writer. So, like, seeing his father's dream, and yet he was so afraid of it. And like father, like son, the way he explains here, Michael J. Fox said the same thing earlier, where his girlfriend said, "Why don't you play your band?" Yeah, but what if people don't like it? What if people get mad? What if people say you're no good, kid? So just like he wasn't ready to follow his dreams, his father was the same way. So he wants to be this big sci-fi writer, but they want to take the chance. Now try to remember, like when they're back to the future, they show his book. Is that meant to be a reprint? Because they're very rich and successful, but is it meant that he's written a lot of books since then, and this is a reprint, or is this supposed to be his first book and it just went bestseller? I can't remember the details of that. Now, of course, it won't be until the sequel where you're going to see Billy Zane in them as part of the gang. And of course, I was make like a tree and get out of here. And even his look at his buddies behind him. Look at him. Just look at his buddies. Kind of like, what'd he say? Make like a tree and get out of here. And his buddies are like, this guy a moron? And of course, they bring that back in the second film. It's leave. Make like a tree and leave. You sound so stupid when you say it wrong. Find and leave then. And I kind of wonder, like, what I think Back to the Future 2 I really do enjoy. I think it's a very clever sequel. I think what it is that for the most part, this is such a self... Other than the ending having this fun little cliffhanger, it's still a fairly self-contained story. While the second film, you need to be familiar with the first film, and then even then, there's another cliffhanger to the... So it does have that middle section where... Now, I don't know which Van Halen song this is. It says Van Halen on the tape. Of course, I do like the bit later where he's Lord Vader from the planet Vulcan. Well, of course he is. I am Lord Vader from the planet Vulcan. Granted, you would think he'd be wondering why does this guy care about my love life, like this alien. Like you would think it's like, so this alien's going to come from the sky and force me to wonder about my love life. You'd be wondering why. But I guess he just goes on with it. But some nice production value, the set design, the set dressing, the costumes, that make it look like the 50s. In the old Coke bottles. the glass bottles, which you don't see a whole lot. Probably because for them, like, glass is much more. Of course, what is that? Pepsi? Is that, yeah, Pepsi Cola there? I don't know if like glass soda is just tough for them to make, or they feel it's, you know, much more breakable, so it's much more fragile. They'd rather be as least amount of fragile as possible. But you don't really see a lot of glass bottles for soda. Maybe once in a while if you go into a grocery store, or I guess if you have a big enough store, you grab some of those bottles, which is nice to drink because usually they have more of the, especially Coca-Cola. I think if you get the glass bottles, it's going to be more real sugar, while so it's going to taste a bit sweeter and maybe taste a little bit better. Almost as if that's like the old formula of Coca-Cola, and then if you buy in a can and stuff, that's just the newer Coca-Cola that people are used to now. Can't remember though. Like, it's been so long since I've had one of them. Because even this bit here where, you know, Michael J. Fox, you know, keeps helping them out, but then in a way keeps inadvertently making Leah Thompson fall more in love with him because of how tough and brave he is. But then also hopefully will get Crispin Glover the guts to finally punch the hell out of Biff and then show what he's made of. First, we established the steep board. So now we got this stuff here. Which, of course, the steep board, later on we see a type of that with the hoverboard, which is the coolest. I love the hoverboard in part 2. And they had great score balance of vestry, of course. Fantastic score. Great score balance of vestries. It hits all the right emotional moments. Has a wonderful adventure quality. It just has a great scale to it. Especially when seeing this, if you saw this on the big screen. You don't really see a lot of people doing skateboard stuff nowadays, now that I think about it. I'm trying to think of the last film that you saw, like, skateboard type of action. Maybe like some of those later terrible Ninja Turtle films, but of course this be a repeating bit here with the manure, which that would happen in Back to the Future 2. I hate manure. And of course, in Back to the Future 3, where the older, you know, the ancestor, whatever you want to call it, he just punched and falls into the manure. And of course, there's another bit of business here with Dot being killed when he comes back. Which that's the thing is that if he has a time machine, he could set it for any time he wants. So he could set it for an hour before and just go and tell him and stuff. Hell, you meet him 2 hours before, tell him the whole story, and says this is what you have to do. They're going to shoot you here, all that jazz. But I guess it worked out when he wrote the note. And yeah, Michael and Chris just have great chemistry together. They're definitely the best parts of these three films, is to see the two of them work together. And of course, a big inspiration for Rick and Morty, the cartoon. Without this pairing, I don't think you would have Rick and Morty. Especially not the way they... yeah, I don't think you would have had the show at all. And then it's interesting, I think there was a commercial where they had Christopher Lloyd playing Morty, I believe. I could be wrong on that, but I think there was. I remember that I do like the car gets on fire here. And then Chris's reaction. Oh! Yeah, right here, the car on fire. It's his reaction. So I'm not saying anything. Sometimes it's hard to do these commentaries and know what to say consistently, especially for a movie that's, again, almost 2 hours long. But I mean, it's sad. I mean, I say this all the time. I would still keep saying it. I look at films today, man, and films are meant to be escapism, and I get it. There are people that like the films of today. I can only speak for myself and my taste, my feelings, my thoughts. It'd be very presumptuous to talk about someone else's thoughts, or whole groups of thoughts, or hundreds or thousands of other people's thoughts. I'd speak my own. I love movies. I love the escapism of movies. Enjoying the characters, or the humor, or the story, or the action, the spectacle, the fight scenes, the B-movie fun, the whatever the case may be, for what kind of film it is. And so many films nowadays, I just don't get that sense of captivation. Whether it be, I think the stories are really lame, or the spectacle don't seem as interesting or as awe-inspiring as they want, or the characters just come off as very bland or very lazy, lame, forgettable. Does that mean it's every film nowadays? No, but just when you look back and people wonder why the 80s are so beloved. Well, actually, no one thinks that, but you take any year and you think about all the films that came out that one year, and then think about the films that came out this year so far, and there's no comparison. You pick any year from 19... Okay, I'm going to look up 1985. I'm going to tell you the films that came out in that year. Now, to compare that to this year, What have you had this year? Whether you like or hate these movies. Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Godzilla vs. Kong 2. The Beekeeper, which I had fun with. Madam Web. The American Society of whatever. Bad Boys 4. And we're pretty much in July. By the time you see this, we'll probably be I'm recording this in June. It'll probably be July when you see this. January, February, March, April, May, June, July. I mean, past the halfway mark of the year. And you're sitting there going, this is what we've had so far? What do you have coming up? Maybe Wolverine, Deadpool movie, a twist or two, Alien Romulus. Now look at the films of this year, the highest grossing films. Back to the Future, Rambo First Blood Part 2, Rocky 4, Cocoon, Witness, The Goonies, Weird Science. Let's look at this. Films of this year including The Mutilator, which was a slasher film I did not mind. You have, I wish they could shorten this, so, or The Witness with Harrison Ford. You got The Breakfast Club, which is a classic. You got, let's see what we got here. Missing in Action to the Beginning is fun. Masked is a decent one with Eric Stoltz and Cher and Sam Elliott. Friday the 13th 5, A New Beginning. The Last Dragon. Power of the Glow there. Power of the Glow. We got Police Academy 2. We got Cat's Eye, good anthology. Stephen King anthology. Code of Silence, Chuck Norris film, that's a good one. Gotcha, that's a fun one. With Anthony Edwards. Bit underrated. I Like Creature from 1985. Brewster's Millions with Richard Pryor and John Candy. Rambo 2, I think is a fantastic sequel. A View to a Kill. Not a great movie to be fair, but good song. Fletch, great Chevy Chase one. The Goonies. The Stuff, one of Larry Cohen's best films. Cocoon. Return to Oz. Back to the Future. Let's see. Explorers, which had a good first half. Day of the Dead, one of the better zombie films. Fright Night, one of my favorite vampire films. Love Fright Night. Weird Science. Real Genius. Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Summerento, a very fun John Candy film, in my opinion. The Return of the Living Dead. Better Off Dead, great John Cusack film. Teen Wolf, of course, with Michael J. Fox. American Ninja. Let's see. After Hours, good Martin Scorsese movie. Invasion USA, one of my favorite Chuck Norris films. Commando. Can't go wrong with Commando. Remo Williams, Stephen King's Silver Bullet. Reanimator. Death Wish 3. So yeah, Death Wish 3 was this year. Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge. To Live and Die in L.A. Sorry. I like King Solomon's Mines with Richard Chamberlain. Rocky 4 is great. You have Runaway Train, you got Spies Like Us, you got Clue. Rest in peace to Martin Mull, who recently passed away. Clue's a very fun one. The Color Purple, Enemy Mine. So yeah, a decent amount of films to come out during that time period, man. And yeah, very cool to see there, man. Very cool to see. As you say, maybe it's deep down she knows something's up. Then this is the scene that Disney got upset about, and they didn't want to have the picture, which I'm sure they regret with how much damn money this made. Afterwards, Robert Zemeckis would find even more success with, like I said, 85 was this. Then you had Who Framed Roger Rabbit, you had Back to the Future 2 and 3, you had Castaway and What Lies Beneath, and Forrest Gump, of course, before those. So, oh yeah? Mess with him, you mess with all of us. Take you three. Oh, yeah, there's Billy Zane. I forgot Billy Zane was in this one. I kept thinking he was in the sequels. But yeah, that was Billy Zane there. I guess I didn't see him in the other scenes. Okay, yeah, I forgot Billy Zane was in this. I kept thinking he was in the second one. But yeah, he was in the first one. Oh yeah, that's where he gets his moment to shine. So what are you going to do? And this is definitely a nice crowd-pleasing moment. Where finally he gets his backbone. Finally gets his moment to shine. And you probably see where the audience just is like, they're just getting ready right here with this look. When, yep, Crispin Glover did more mad. Yep, the fist. It's really the fist. And boom. And like I said, when I was a kid, I had this. Well, I didn't say this before, but I've said this in other commentaries. I had this weird thing where I would see sequels first, again and again and again, and it wasn't until sometime later when I would see the first one. It happened with Halloween 2. Well, I would see Halloween 2, and then it was years later till I saw the first one. Rocky 2, 3, and 4. I would see, and then later on I saw the first Rocky. Same with this. I would see Back to the Future 2. And so I would see that, are you okay? You know, that type of thing. When I got to that part in Back to the Future 2. And I don't know why. I mean, you would think I would have been more confused. But then, it wasn't years later. It was a little bit later that I saw Back to the Future 1. And I okay, yeah, it makes a little bit more sense. But I guess it's one of those things that, you know, it's what's at the video store? Sure, why not? And it's a movie. We only had like 3-4 channels on TV. Video games weren't really as much of a thing. They were, but not nearly compared to today. And then you maybe have, you know, a handful of games, if that, since they cost so much. Wasn't like today, well, here's a sale and it's, you get this game for $10 digital or download, you know, far from it. Now that right there is Courtney Gaines right here. It's like, come on, dude, you just punched out Biff. You punch out Biff, but you don't let this guy take it? Come on now. Now, Courtney Gaines, if that guy looks familiar, he was in the original Children of the Corn. In great use of the music here. Because I'm playing a bit of a showcase, a bit of rock and roll here. Sorry, I'm not saying that. I'm just enjoying the film. It's been a while since I've seen this. And of course, later, Michael J. Fox would play a little bit more of the guitar in Light of Day. What was it? Joan Jett? I forget who plays his sister. That's funny because I reviewed the film like less than a month ago. Wasn't a big fan of the movie, but I didn't mind Michael J. Fox in it. Because, yeah, after the success of this, and you still had Family Ties being successful and went on for a few years, let's see, you had, again, this, and then Teen Wolf came out a couple months later. And in between, you had films like Light of Day, Bright Lights, Big City, that he tried to stretch his acting a bit. Those films didn't do anything. Casualties of War, which is, I think, a great one, with him, Sean Penn, directed by Brian De Palma. Sadly, that didn't do much, but I think that's a very good one. So, Family Ties still being successful. Went back to the Future, did 2. 2 made a lot of money. This is some info I'll probably say more again when I talk because he wanted me to do the commentaries for the sequels. I'll say it again there, but yeah, Back to the Future 2 was very successful. I think worldwide it was the third most successful. It was like Batman, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and Back to the Future Part 2 worldwide gross. And then I think in the US it was in the top 10. Because the jump ahead in 1989, I mean, that's what I'm talking about. You think of this summer, the film's coming out. Okay, if you want to include Bad Boys 4, Twister 2, Alien Romulus, Wolverine Deadpool. But you look back in the day, it's like there's Batman, there's a James Bond movie, License to Kill, there's Ghostbusters 2, there's Back to the Future 2, there's Lethal Weapon 2. Indiana Jones Last Crusade, like sequels that you seem really gun-ho for and really excited for, as well as like Batman, which felt like such a huge event. And there was many more, and Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Not the case this year, at least for me. And that's what I like about Back to the Future 2 is how clever it is to, again, not only go to the future and see like what fun they have and pontificate what the future will be, but then to go back to 1955 and then like see this movie from a different perspective. So like there's another Marty McFly behind that door watching this exchange. And like during him playing guitar, there's another Marty McFly with fedora up on top to save himself. Again, it was like very clever, and you didn't really see that done a whole lot. And because of time travel, you're able to do it. So again, it felt like it was a lot of stuff to put into one movie. The future, the Ultra 85, and then 1955. I'm like, wow, it was ambitious, I thought, and I thought fairly clever for a sequel. So I'm now just watching the film. But yeah, Back to the Future 2. Oh, I guess one of the, I mean, I'll talk about this when I talk about Back to the Future 2 in that commentary. But the how do I put it? The Crispin Glover thing is an interesting bit of business. I should say that for the sequel, but I'll talk about it again. Why not? This is pretty much a setup for the big clock tower scene. But of course, I mean, this would be the last time we see Crispin Glover in the franchise, because pretty much what happened, again, I'm going to repeat this in the next one, but what happened was they decided to do the sequel. Not only is it going to be a sequel, but it's going to be 2 films back to back. Back to the Future 2 be coming out in 1989, then the Wild West one, 1990. They say the budget's $40 million, but I'm guessing that's $40 million for both films combined. Which was a good investment for the studio, because if it really was $40 million combined, and say you double that, and it's $80 million, with marketing. The second film made over $100 million in the U.S. alone, more than that, in fact. And so now you just a lot of profits afterwards. So it's definitely a successful venture. But the way Crispin Glover tells it, they offered him half of what the other people got coming back. Now, granted, I don't know what the original script was where he would have been in it, because I think his lack of involvement wrote it where that's why he was killed. Which is such an important part of the story. You kind of wonder, well, what would have the story been if he was in it? Because the fact that his father's dad makes that alternate 85 much more darker and serious and much more of a personal beef between Marty and Biff. I don't know what that would have been otherwise. But anyway, Crispin Glover, at the end, first he says it was because of the money. Then he said in that interview, well, I had issues with the first movie or with the script because it seemed like when it was all said and done, it was about materialism and greed, because he got that truck at the end and all this other stuff when it should be about love. Crispin, I don't want to say this here, you were full of, your head is up your ass. No wonder, if that's the way he acted, no wonder Bob Dale and them got pissed off at the guy. And I honestly believe Zemeckis Bob Dale in this story more than Crispin. Because again, you see how Crispin acts in... Like I said, look up the David Letterman interview he did, where he's acting all weird. That's what he does, and it seems like he's hard to deal with. Because he's eccentric, and oh my god, look how eccentric I am. I like him as a performer, but I would never want to meet him as a person. He just say, oh, look how different. Now, granted, there was an interview he did with, was a Collider, that seemed genuine. Probably the most normal I've ever seen him in an interview. So maybe in his view, he felt like he was the victim, but I don't know, man. A lot of people want to be the heroes in their own stories. Come on, dude. 10 minutes. Why not go for an hour? Why do you have to... I'll just go back 10 minutes. Again, go back an hour. Why not? But anyway. So what happened was Crispin Glover said no. They made the film. But then they cast a different actor. And because they wanted to hide the guy's face, they have the guy be upside down because something to do with his back. And they put makeup on him. They try to kind of look... But you never really got a good look at his face. It was so obstructed and far away and hidden that you really couldn't tell. And then Crispin Glover sued, going, well, people thought that was me, and they're trying to make the guy kind of look like me, and the whole likeness affair. And he was actually successful, to the point that many films afterward, that's part of the deal. Your likeness is yours, and people aren't allowed to use it unless X, Y, and Z happens, and you gotta put that in deals and contracts and things of that nature. So It set a precedence. I think that kind of hurt his career, though, in terms of you didn't really see him in many big movies for a while. It's until, what, Charlie's Angels in 2000? I'm sure he did stuff in the 90s, but I can't think of stuff at the top of my head that he did. I'm sure he did stuff, I just can't think of it. And you gotta think, I mean, not only is Robert Zemeckis Bob Dale, but Steven Spielberg is producing the stuff, and he probably heard that and went, that some bitch. You know, these are films I'm producing, and you're trying to screw us up? And Chris's reaction to all this. And it's nice because Chris Lloyd doesn't have a whole lot to do in the rest of the film. So this gives him such a good shiny moment for his character. A bit of comedy with his reactions, but a bit of the hero moment. Time to shine. And it's definitely one of the more memorable scenes in the movie. When people think of Back to the Future, they think of this. One of the scenes they think of is this whole bit here. Especially with the music and everything. Da, 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 da. Of course, this is what you have to do in the Nintendo game, which is such a pain in the ass. Da, 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 da. Like that right there is probably one of the big special effects of the movie. And compared to other movies, seemed pretty quaint. So that's why the budget went into the set design of the back lot to make it look like 1955 and Hill Valley. Both the 1985 and 1955 versions, and then bits like that. I love that the second film where you see this, and then you see Marty McFly right here, come around the corner, do 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 do, and then Chris like, no, I said you're back to the future. Yeah, I know, I'm back, but I'm back from the future. Great Scott! And he passes out. Yeah, another fond memory I have. Now that bum there, I believe, is George Buttflower, who played a lot of these type of roles. George Buttflower. He was in a few John Carpenter films. He was in The Fog, the 1980 film. He's one of the people killed by the pirate ghost. He was in, I think he's Steve from New York. I think he's a guy who has the bracelet. I knew if I had this, I'd be president. Da, 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 ba, da, da, da. I think he was in They Live. He had a little bit more of a character in They Live. You know, they're running the whole show. You know, telling Roddy Piper and Keith David as he has his suit on, where he's a human worker for the aliens. Hey, they're running the whole show. You know, I think he was in Village of the Damned. I could be wrong. Like, he would pop a lot of John Carpenter films, but he would pop up in a lot of other directors' films too. I think he gets a fairly high billing, considering that's like the only scene he's in. I have to look at the end credits when it pops up. The Lone Pine Mall. That's why I said, don't just do 10 minutes. But of course, it solves that dilemma where I was talking about that, that paradox earlier. Now, granted, Now that his parents have gone through all these changes, would Marty McFly still be in this predicament growing up that he would meet Doc Brown and he would do all this stuff and in the same situation? You just gotta go with it. Say yes. Even, but because that's the thing. You see that his brother changed very much. His sister changed very much. His mom and dad changed very much. But lo and behold, he's the one guy who didn't change, that also met Dot Brown and also got in the situation in the exact same way. So again, it's weird. Like, so your mom and your dad and your brother and sister all changed and have different jobs and different looks and different outfits and different, except you, because it's convenient to the story. And you either go along with it or you don't. Again, the performances are endearing enough that it works. Like Michael J. Fox, you're alive. Bulletproof vests? How do you know? Why the hell not? And that's the thing, like, you get these movies that come out nowadays that I don't see any of them becoming a movie that will be a part of people, their lexicon, the pop culture, for years and years to come. Now, you don't know that until the years come about, of course, but from Robocop to Predator to Lethal Weapon to Back to the Future, then even the '89 Batman, it's one thing to be a box office hit. It's another to be a whole different animal. So tired he slept with. And that's the thing. So you see on the wall, he has the same picture that was in his wallet on the wall. His room is the same. He has the same Diet Pepsi free, but then he sees just how different this all is. He's wondering, what the hell? So again, it's funny, like, he's the only thing that didn't change. Even his original self, like his, how you put it, his previous, the one that went to the past. So you look how different his siblings are. But like I say, you either go with it or you don't. And God, look just how different these guys are. Especially Crispin Glover. Looks like ready to, I don't know what you call it, ready to, I don't, buy a condo somewhere. And then lo and behold, here's Biff. Biff's auto detail. How the how things have changed. Sorry, I'm just now watching more of the film. Now you just see how happy-go-lucky Biff is. Golly gee. So weird to see Biff in this type of demeanor, and you won't see that again. It's interesting that, you know, because Claudia Wells could not do the second film because what was going on with her mom, which is understandable why she didn't do it. I mean, if her mom's going through that, that definitely comes first and foremost. But then they had to reshoot all this stuff. Which maybe it works in the fact that because they're older, it'd be hard to like see just how young these guys are because it's been 4 years, and then to cut from that to, you know, the newer footage they would have. Now, of course, there was never meant to be a sequel. This is just they had a fun idea of how to end it, so let's just do it this way. Again, their idea is, well, we never really thought of it as a sequel. We just thought this would be a fun way to end it. Which I do see. But you can also see why people thought, oh, they're setting up for a sequel. I mean, you can't be mad at people for thinking that. But it is a fun way to end it with the great line, roads, where we're going, we don't need roads. Because it's a fun reveal here, and that's really why they did this too, is the reveal here of, oh wow, it could, what the hell? So that's the other special event. Michael J. Fox, Christopher Lloyd, Leah Thompson, Crispin Glover, Thomas F. Wilson. I forgot Casey Shamastro was the other guy, along with Billy Zane. Yeah, Casey Shamastro, who of course was in 3 O'Clock High, underrated film, and then he was also in Young Guns after this. That's right, Industrial Light and Magic worked on this. Still a fun movie. Still a fun, satisfying movie that you look back, relax, and I mean, this is after the fact when you see this, but around the time I'm doing this, it's been a pretty crappy week. Long story short, I'll tell this bit here. I am in Texas, dealing with killer bees, this Africanized bees, and recently my mom was attacked by them. Thankfully she's doing a bit better, but it was definitely a scary situation. And then they're right over here at this shed where the lawnmower is at, and the guy that's supposed to come, he said he got the bee, but then he'd be back later at night, but he hasn't come back, even though it's like almost 2 a.m. So whether he's, you know, lied or did something else, or was waiting till the morning, didn't tell anybody. I don't know, but just one of those things that's just it's been a pain in the ass couple days. So it's nice to sit back, watch this film, and just relax and escape for 2 hours, and that's the power of escapism. I think that's what people in Hollywood don't realize. Oh, okay. For some reason, I thought Blood Flower was higher on the. Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie then. I'm like, oh wow, George Blood Flower, he got higher. So I'm thinking of a different movie. But that's what people don't realize the power of escapism. Is that when you go through the ups and downs of life and it really knocking you down and you try to get back up and it knocks you down more. These films are important to just sit and relax and escape to another time, another world, another with characters, and just enjoy. Have fun, enjoy, and that's a very important part of it all. But anyway, with that said, thanks once again. Take care, everyone. And we'll see you guys later. I know Shawn has a few more commentaries, Back to the Future 2 and 3 at some time. I don't know if I'd do them. I kind of do like one commentary per night, so I don't screw up my voice too much from talking consistently for hours. But we'll get to them eventually. Thanks once again, take care, and we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye for now.